first? Who? Got first base. Who? Got first. Who is on first? What are you asking me for? I'm asking you.
What's up, everybody? I am Tim Ellerbrook, and I'm with my good friend Brian Caplinger, and welcome to this episode of Who's on First. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Another good weekend of baseball. Weather seems to be turning in favor of baseball, so
hopefully, man.
I'm with you. It's been miserable up to the point of watching snow games and masks on the players and all that fun stuff. So maybe we'll get into some good spring weather and continue to see the ball fly.
The amount of rain delays has been crazy too, because it happened to not just in St. Louis, but it happened in Atlanta. That one game that went to midnight.
It's just been miserable, but
it's super miserable.
April showers.
That means we got another month. Don't speak that. Before we get started, just want to remind you guys that we're on Twitter, YouTube, and everything. Leave us a comment. Our handles are at WFBB Podcast. Comment on the video or on the episodes, and just bring up some chat. It's fun to have some discourse. Like to hear what you guys have to say and your takes and everything. Like Brian said, it's been an interesting week of baseball. St. Louis has come off a crazy road trip of just getting destroyed in Boston and not wanting to play in Pittsburgh. And there's been some interesting injuries that have popped up over the last week plus. And then I also think it'll be interesting to see what offense has been like compared to last season. What predictions are starting to shape up, our prediction episode a few weeks ago, the things we said and put out there and what they're looking like now. And there's some interesting underperformers, overperformers. I think it would be interesting to talk about today. So first, I think, let's jump into the injuries. There have been some kind of interesting injuries injuries are a weird thing in the game, right? The human body is being pushed like it's never been before in this sport, and I think probably in general just because technology has gotten so advanced. But there was a report that came out a couple of days ago that Justin Steele, who was, I guess he's not the ace because of Mike Imanaga, but he was the number 2 pitcher. He definitely is a linchpin in the Cubs rotation, but it was just announced he's having elbow reconstruction, I think it's called.
Yeah, reconstructive
so
surgery.
I think they're saying it's not Tommy John technically, but
right. Close enough.
He's going to be gone for the year.
Right.
And then Ronaldo Lopez, who for Atlanta was a fantastic starter last year, kind of came out of nowhere, who I guess you could kind of project this could show up because he was a reliever for his career, and then he'd never thrown that many innings. But still, man, losing someone with what is a sub-2 ERA?
Yeah, I mean, neck and neck with Sale last year for Cy Young. So.
Lots of other injuries. So what's something that what's on your mind about that? Something you're seeing or, thoughts?
I mean, in today's age, and I think it's not uncommon, especially when you talk about pitchers, but just the nature of how hard they throw and the fact that they're trying to create this spin rate. You said it, man. I mean, we're stretching the body's limits, and unfortunately, I think what happens is sometimes it just can't hold up. I mean, that aside, there's been some freak injuries. I mean, you talk about players just doing their normal thing, like Spencer Arringhetti for Houston, just out kind of, fielding, playing around, ends up breaking his finger. And warm-ups.
I didn't even see that one.
And so he's out for at least 6 weeks.
Jeez.
And that it hurts them, Houston, that is. And so, outside of some of that things, but I think the big thing with injuries is, I mean, every team knows at some point in the season somebody's going to go down. You're just praying and asking that it's not the major year-ending or the massive ones. But, when you look at, the league as a whole, right now, the teams that seem to be escaping some of those major injuries obviously are the teams that are kind of flourishing. But then some of the ones that are kind of going through it right now, you're starting to see them dip and dive. And you wonder what kind of effect, because we often talk, you can't really look at baseball till you get a little bit deeper into the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I've started to notice a trend over the last couple of years, especially in the closer division races, obviously the Centrals on both sides, the AL and the NL, when it comes down to 1-2 games and you're missing the spots, these games in April matter tremendously.
Yeah.
while you're trying to get right. And so,
Yeah, there's like I don't know what the exact phrase is, but you can't win your season in April, but you can lose it.
100%.
Every team can dig themselves too much of a hole that they can't climb out of. Kind of makes me think with Atlanta, them starting off the way they are. Let me pull their
4
they're
and
starting
11.
off 4-11.
Right.
Dude, I don't know that you could come out of that. Now, baseball is a weird sport. Anything can happen. You can catch fire and win 30 games, and all of a sudden your season's back, which is 30 games in a row. Obviously, it's historic and never been done before. But I think about Houston last year, the hole that they started and dug themselves in April, and then they made the wild card. Obviously, they got bounced, but still, they dug themselves a hole and climbed out of it. But at what point is the hole just way too big, right? What was the stat? I don't know. You might not know this. I don't know off the top of my head, so I apologize, guys. But when Atlanta did their first 10 games, like they started 1-8 or 1-9 or something.
Yeah, I mean,
there was a stat out there that in the history of the game, no one has made it to the playoffs that started off with that number, which you feel for them because, man, the Braves are a good team. They have a really good lineup of people, but injuries have just decimated them like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and we were concerned. I mean, when you look at the Braves from the beginning, my concern wasn't necessarily their starting pitching, although now it's starting to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you will have Strider coming back, but it's going to take him a little bit to ramp up. I mean, he has started some of his
he's been on rehab.
But yeah, I mean, he's still going to be on a pitch limit. He's still going to have to ramp himself back up at the major league level. I mean, outside of Spencer Swellenbach, they really haven't had anybody from that starting rotation step up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been the problem for them. I mean, granted, they're back to 4-11 after that rough start. They're starting to get some of their players back. I mean, but Acuna's out till at least May.
Yeah.
Before he returns. And I mean, even though Murphy's back, you're talking about the early season, get in rhythm, get your timing back. Those type of things have to take place.
Yeah.
So if they don't really get going till May, your point right there, they may dig themselves a tremendous hole.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning. And you could say the same thing about some other teams. You know, you look at the Orioles, who I predicted to be pretty good in that division. The offense has been there. Again, pitching has been their worry. They have seen some people go down.
Zach Eflin just got announced. Eflin? My bad.
Yeah, I mean, Grayson Rodriguez has been out before the season started. There's not really a timetable for him to return. Trevor Rogers, somebody they traded for, kind of in that same boat. They traded for him last year. And so you start looking at a lot of their pitching. I mean, again, you've got Tyler Wells, Bradish, who had Tommy John surgery, so he's not projected to come back this year. They knew that going in, but they didn't really address that.
That's just been an interesting team overall because they added Kyle Gibson really, really late into Did he come in spring or like after the season started? I can't remember. He hasn't pitched for him yet.
Yeah, I think it was right as the season was starting.
So it kind of feels a little Cardinals 2.0-ish, which I know their GM came from our system. But the pitching that they're adding that's supporting the offense they have just isn't stacking up. And so it's kind of like they feel a little stuck in the middle of that division of like, hey, this lineup that you have can just go crazy, but you have to get pitching for it, and they won't. Which is why, in my prediction, I put them at the bottom, which they are right now, but obviously it's April. They're not back enough in a hole enough that they can. That division is very, very much competitive.
Right.
Still.
I mean, you're talking 2.5 games out, and you're in last place in the division, so it's still.
But Eflin going on, that's their one good starter they've had so far.
Right.
And I mean, he's only on the 15-day IL, so he'll be back by the end of the month, but still.
Maybe, because they don't have a timetable. Those things, they get tricky. So it gets tricky there because he's going to have a period where he can't even throw. So then even when he gets to that point,
he's got to build back up.
He's going to have to build back up. Yeah, so it could be a longer stretch. They just are hopeful. Yeah. It's just a 15.
The other one that stuck out to me is Ben Joyce for the Angels. I mean, man, he throws 105, so you know those
Right.
guys they're gonna break down at some point because that's just your body. That's how it works. Sad for that. We never got to see him pitch. No, he pitched once in the series when he came to St. Louis, but he's their most reliable reliever. I remember there was a fan in the stands right next to us, an Angels fan. I asked him, "Hey, is Joyce available?" He's like, "No, they've pitched him the last 2 days back to back." And so, like, it kind of seems like they're throwing him out there a lot because he's reliable. He can get guys out. But, man, you throw that much like that, you're expected to break down at some point somehow.
Right. And I mean, you talk about them, you look at the AL West. I mean, what a surprise they are to be sitting up there. I mean, the Rangers are right there on their heels, obviously. Mariners sitting at 800 or 500, not 800, 500.
Yeah.
And the Astros being the Astros, again, we talked a little bit. They've lost a couple people. They're still waiting on some people to come back. Their offense finally seems like it's switching gears and great just in time for them to come to St. Louis, too.
Right.
But
that'll be a good series, though. We'll talk about that later.
yeah, we'll talk later on that one. But, I mean, there's been some big surprises, especially when you look at the West. I mean, the Angels being where they are, I did not see this coming. I just did not think they had enough players on both sides of the ball to really step up. And even with Trout kind of being like, he's hitting in, you said it earlier, kind of like low-key moments.
Yeah.
They're not like really big clutch hits from Trout, but
Which he's never been a clutch player.
right. And so it doesn't surprise me, but they're coming up with some big hits. I mean, you look at the series in St. Louis that they had. What, 2 of the 3 games were extra inning wins?
Yeah.
And so, like,
I think that though that was an indictment on both teams because one of those games St. Louis gave to them because Angels won one of those on not hitting anything. It was on, I don't know if it was on errors.
it was walks. It was the Helsley.
Yeah, it was the walks.
Yeah. We have 4
the other
walks.
one, I gotta
in an
throw
inning.
this out there to you. I'm gonna find it, but the Kyron Paris.
Yeah.
Have you looked at his
Yes.
numbers, dude? It's insane. He's hitting for the year. Let me look at this. 368, 1,300 OPS. He's second in home runs to Trout on the Angels and in the league at 5. He came out of nowhere. I watched a video on him on X. He changed his stance completely coming into this year, almost emulating Judge a little bit. He says he visited, I forgot his name, big fan of the guy, but Judge's personal hitting coach, he went to his clinic and changed the load and changed the way that, I don't want to call it a leg kick because I don't think that's technically what it is, even though he's raising his leg up.
Lifting and setting down.
The lift and set. And, dude, out of nowhere, this kid is just destroying the league.
Well, and he struggled at the end of last year. Like, he was irrelevant at the end of last year, and a lot of people were like, they don't know if he would be back up, and then yet here he is, like you said. I mean, a 1-3 WAR. I mean, leading the team in that alone says a lot.
Yeah. And he hit us like crazy when he came to St. Louis. So, I mean, okay, let me throw this to you. The standings right now and what they are, is there any relevance to your predictions and changing them, or the way we'll look at the end of the season, or it's April and it's baseball?
I mean, for me, I think there are some divisions that are shaping up kind of the way I thought they would be. In regards to like the AL East, I mean, we said it was going to be a dogfight all the way. I think the adjustment of teams will happen in that regard. I don't think the Blue Jays can keep up the trend that they have. I mean, don't get me wrong, they've got a decent team, but they've got legitimately one starter that I would really put faith in right now.
Gausman?
Yeah. And so, maybe they'll surprise me, but I just don't see them holding on to it. We've seen the Red Sox kind of go through this up and down phase. I mean, Crochet's struggling quite a bit. For them, as funny as it is, he gets his contract, right? And now he's kind of, So you'll have to see that. Yankees, we knew the slug was going to be there. We knew the lineup was going to be what it was. Pitching has just failed them. I mean, obviously, Stroman not doing his thing for the Yankees, and they put him on the IL.
So let me interrupt you and throw a question to you. What makes you think, or what makes you say that Crochet is struggling to you right now?
I just don't think he's as well, maybe I shouldn't say he hasn't been as dominant as he was.
So he's got a 1.3 ERA right now with 28 strikeouts and 26 innings pitched at a .88 WHIP. And he is number 5 in baseball for all starters.
Let me look at this.
And I think this is, I mean, I don't know if inflated is the right word, but the game he just had, was it yesterday?
Yes.
He's definitely inflated this in a positive way for him.
Right.
Because he had that, it was 7.1 innings of shutout, and I think somebody hit him for a run in the last game.
Yeah, and so you hope that he's making that turn because, again, you look at them from the hitting side of things, I don't think they're completely horrid offensively.
No, I mean, the Cardinals would tell you that they're the best lineup in baseball.
I just think, and again, they've got to deal with some things on their pitching staff as well outside of Crochet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they haven't been consistent. Maybe that's what I should have said. They haven't been consistent as a whole from the pitching staff. And we thought that would be better.
Yeah.
And again, you look at even the relief side of things, it hasn't been locked down for them quite the way that they thought it would be. Bueller's not being what they were hoping from him, but he tends to turn it on later in the season.
He's a weird one to me because the last 2 years with injury, you don't really know what to expect him. Ever since 21, I forget when his first when Tommy John hit him, was it 21 or 22? I can't remember. But prior to that, he was a really good number 2, and obviously he's a really big game pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
But the last year he had in LA, aside from the World Series, he was kind of a little less than mid, I guess I should say.
Right.
So my expectations for him this year are kind of, I don't really know. So yeah, I don't know what that means for what you're saying.
But again, you look at the whole thing is the AL East, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, 2.5 games separates the top from the worst. And so you talk about really anything shaping up differently. I mean, outside of the AL West and the AL East, the only thing that's kind of maybe surprising me, and again, the top 3 teams are all together, is the NL West. I didn't see the Padres.
Yeah, that's been crazy.
I just did not see the Padres being the team that was going to step up and be this dominant this early.
Hey, man, you give Merrill that kind of money, turns his frown upside down.
Right.
No, but I mean, in all jokes aside, their culture has definitely shifted since Schilt went over there. Obviously, he's a good manager, and we very much know everything that he did for the Cardinals when he was here. But I mean, we talked about it last time, and in predictions, chemistry is the one stat that you can't track that makes a big difference. So when a clubhouse and a dugout is clicking and just in sync with each other, I pegged them to be close to last in the division, and Giants are second in the West.
Right.
And the Diamondbacks are barely hanging on.
Right. And I had them and the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers were the 2 I had at the top.
Yeah.
Now, the Dodgers, I think, again, it goes back to the injury bug. I mean, Blake Snell's out now for a period of time for them. A number of their starting pitching has just been decimated. Gonsolin's gone. I mean, there's, they're making adjustments on the fly, but really it hasn't been their starting pitching that's been the problem as of late. It's been the bullpen for them.
Yeah.
I mean, even Sasaki had his one bad game.
Yeah.
The last 2 have been great for him.
Yeah.
He's figured something out.
He's still on a pitch count, though.
Right. Which, again, that plays into it. I mean, we know in St. Louis, when you start to have to tax your bullpen early, problems arise quick.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's kind of what's been the case here is some of the starters not being able to go as deep into the game.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting thing to see with them because, like, they're of everything on their team, like on their 26 man, when you look at it, the thing I thought was the biggest strength was their bullpen. Just because the names that they have are all super elite. Vesia, the dude from Texas, I'm forgetting his name, Trinan, Tanner Scott. They brought in these guys that are all closers on their own teams. And yeah, now Vesia, I think coming into the year hadn't had a hit off of a left-handed hitter for I can't remember the numbers, so I don't want to say it, but for a while, and now he's getting blown up. Which, I mean, baseball is baseball. Weird things happen like that. But still, it kind of makes you wonder, with all the starters that they've signed being very, very much 5 and dive guys, like no one on their staff is, in a sense, an innings eater. Someone that's going to give you a start for 7 and 6 and then 7 again. They very much paid for elite stuff in 5 innings-ish.
Yeah, and
will that last a whole season, even with the great depth that they have?
I mean, it all goes back to if your bullpen's performing, and I think they tried that. I mean, they've got like Landon Knack, who was a starter. He's kind of that bridge guy. They were hoping he would be a little bit more involved in that process, and he hasn't been bad. And I'm me, I'm one of those. I don't necessarily look at ERA for bullpen guys because one bad game,
especially this early,
it blows up and it looks bad. So like Tanner Scott hasn't been bad. Yates hasn't been bad for them. Right. They just can't get to him. That's been some of the problem because you can't. I mean, I guess you could if Dave Roberts wanted to. You don't necessarily want to put those guys in the game in the 6th inning because then you burn them out and you don't have them for the later innings. And so it's just interesting because you go back and for the Dodgers, you look at the Cubs game where they got blown out 16-0, right?
Mm-hmm.
None of those runs came off the starter.
Right.
That was all bullpen, and then they had a position player pitch at the very end.
So I'm trying to look at their schedule, most recent schedule, and the teams that they've played. Obviously the Cubs are the hottest team in baseball right now. Their offense is the best in baseball. They played Philly and they lost. They dropped the series in Philly. They dropped the series in Washington.
Right, and that's the big one. Dropping the series in Washington, that's tough.
Mm-hmm. And then they dropped. They dropped the series at home against Chicago. The Rockies are coming in town for them. You never know. I mean,
the Rockies haven't scored a run in 3 games because the Padres just shut them out all 3.
It was pretty incredible. It was fun baseball to watch there. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, the season is long on one hand, so schedule and your standing right now, because they're in it, obviously, they have such good players. They can do anything, but it really the thing that comes out of it makes me think, is this injury-prone staff and bullpen and kind of a little bit of player profile, like infielder or position player profile, going to hold up for 162 to even get them to the postseason? Now, the last 2 years that's happened, and they figure it out. They trade for players when they need.
Which I think that's what they're going to do again. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. LA's not panicking right now.
No.
Because at some point, again, and I could be wrong, but San Diego's going to come down to earth. They're not going to be this hot. I mean, you're talking 13-3 to open the season in the first 16 games.
They did something like that last year, too.
I mean, it's a great storyline, but it's not sustainable throughout baseball. What the Giants are doing to me is a little bit more intriguing on that end, just because they don't have like these quote-unquote superstars. I mean, they've got some what I would consider superstar aging pitchers. When you look at it. Yeah,
that's their thing. They've got great pitching.
But outside of Ramos, for them, there hasn't been this like star player that's really.
I would counter that with what's his name? He leads off for them right now.
Their center fielder?
Is it center fielder?
The guy they got from Japan? Is that who you're thinking of?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's hit like crazy.
Right.
Yastrzemski. He's on a tear right now.
Yeah, and again, I mean, the last name given, MLB history, but he's not a superstar in the sport of today. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Like, they just do it. I mean, obviously they got Willie Adames from the Brewers in free agency this past year, but like outside of that, there's not like these like quote unquote household names like the Dodgers. You look up and down the Dodgers, you're talking about Freeman, Betts, all of that.
It's funny when you look at I think it's Jung Hoo Lee. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
So the Giants were just in New York, and there was a highlight reel of Lee hitting bombs in the Bronx, and I commented on it. I said, "Wait, a left-hander hitting home runs in Yankee Stadium?
Who
no
guessed?
way!"
Right.
And because they were like 340 at the wall type hits, but
right.
It counts as a home run there. It makes you wonder, like, how much did the Yankees miss signing him? Because that's what they need right now. They need a good center fielder, a left-handed center fielder.
Right.
And he's an athletic.
He
can hit in Yankee Stadium really well. I mean, so his numbers are inflated, and they just absolutely destroyed the Yankees because the Yankees have no pitching right now.
Right.
It's all on the IL. All their good pitching, and the Giants brought in really good pitching against them, and so the Giants could just tee off. And the question is, let me throw one last question. We'll move on.
Yeah.
With the AL East is obviously one that I'm very much interested in. Are the Yankees going to be able to hold up right now? Because all they're doing, they're slugging their way to maintaining their standing. Their run differential is plus 18, and the Blue Jays is just a plus 3. Red Sox are at a 0. The Rays are at a plus 3, and the Orioles are at a minus 6 run differential. Now, that doesn't make or break your standing because you got to play the game, and human elements are in there. But if you think about the Cardinals season last year, we had like a negative 30 or 40 run differential, and we were 2 games over or 3 games over 500 record last year, and it was because our offense couldn't hit and our bullpen was great. So even though the Yankees are at that positive run differential, they're still 8-7 because there are games that they can't hit, and obviously their pitching is always going to get blown up.
Right.
Can the Yankees stay, and can they do that all season? Can you slug your way to an above 500 record and maintain yourself in the East?
I mean, I don't want to say it's not possible, but a good indication of this for me is go look at when they played Detroit. They had that big barrage when they were at home early in the season, and it seemed like, man, they were going to hit like 600 home runs in a season. They go to Detroit, their offense is stifled because it's a pitcher's ballpark.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they're facing a little bit stronger pitching than they had to that point from Detroit. And so that's why it doesn't set up well for them, because you look at the stat line, and for starters, I do want to look at ERA a little bit, to a degree, but they've only got one starter that's under a 5 in an ERA right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Fried. I mean, that's the signing, and he's being everything that they hoped he would be for them.
Yeah.
They were just hoping that they would have a couple other pitchers there alongside of him.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously Stroman is Stroman at the high there, over an 11 ERA, which is he just has not performed in Yankee Stadium for them.
Yep.
And that hurts. But, I mean, Rodon has been Rodon. He hasn't really done what he's needed.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bad signing. I think everybody would say it was a bad signing.
Right. And then Will Warren, who they thought was going to be a star, just hasn't turned the corner yet.
Yeah.
And then they're just trying to kind of piece that last spot together. I mean, Carrasco's been there, but hasn't had a ton of success so far.
Not at all.
And so I think for them, they're going to scramble. But again, they're a team that as we get closer to midseason, the trade deadline, they're going to go find somebody. Like they're going to
Guy by the name of
go
Eric Fetty.
right. They're going to go pay for somebody. Like it won't surprise me if they add 2 starters
Yeah.
at the deadline in hopes that everything works out. But I just don't know that offense alone will carry you because, again, the only way that happens is you have to have 2 to 3 people stay consistently hot. Now, they can rotate between the 2 to 3, and that's kind of what's been the case for them. I mean, Judge came out on an absolute tear.
Still is.
Yeah. Jazz is doing his thing. They're starting to get some, like, what I would say clutch moment hittings, like from Ben Rice again. He's hit some big home runs just in relief.
Who has an identical stance to Judge now.
Right. Everybody does. Let's just say that. On the Yankees, everybody does. I mean, so when you look up and down, like, their lineup, like, do they have the players to do it? Sure. But
I liken it to 23 with the Rangers. They slugged their way to a World Series. But outside of that one run by that one team, pitching is what's won postseasons and World Series from the other teams. Now, by the time you get to those 7-game series, and it's April. I don't know why we're talking about World Series right now. But by the time you get to those 7-gamers deep in the playoffs, pitching starts to matter a little less because hitters are starting to see players more, pitchers more, and they're going to start beating them more often. But you got to get there first. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The Red Sox are at the 500 mark, or right below. Middling. They brought in players that they got to click still, right?
Right.
The Blue Jays are doing better than I thought. Will it hold because it's almost the same roster, minus Jimenez, and then they call him Tony Taters, but I forgot his name.
Santander.
Yeah, Santander, who hadn't been hitting at all. So I don't know. Interesting. It's April and it's baseball, and we think. And we as fans are like, well, this is what it's going to look like.
Right, overreaction all the time.
October.
Right.
And that's the fun of it, right? But
it is.
I think it'll be interesting to see Atlanta and the way that their season is going to shape out. Like you said, the AL West will be fun to watch.
Right.
And then I'm always watching the AL East because it's just 3 to 4 big name teams.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen there.
Yeah. And then obviously, I mean, I continue to look at the Central. I want to see if the Cubs can actually continue to do what they're doing because to me, they're the one wild card in the NL.
Mm-hmm.
They have the lineup to really rival. I mean, obviously, you saw what they were able to do to LA. They have a lineup that can rival other teams, but with Steele going out, can the pitching still sustain it? Because the one thing, again, we talk about, and we're not in the clubhouses, so we can't see it all the time.
Right.
But is Steele kind of that stabilizer for the team? Like when they hit those stretches where, let's say they've lost 6 out of 7, and his start's coming up, right? And you need that stopper, that guy that's just going to go out there and give you 7 innings of, 3-hit ball, maybe giving up 1 run to give your team a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Is there somebody else on this team that can step up and fill that role? I mean, we talk about Shota as kind of that frontline guy. They didn't start him as the frontline. I believe Steele was the opening day starter for them this year.
I think it was opening day, but Imanaga was their home opener.
Okay.
Which, I think that was their intent.
And again, like I said, I know he's up there, but I think they were trying to kind of maybe not put that pressure on him right away, but now he's going to be asked
Our
to
buddy
kind of
Michael
fill that
would know
role.
more, but I would imagine if they were going into a wild card or a 5-game, whatever, I would imagine it would have been Imanaga, then Steele, then Assad, maybe.
Yeah, and I would tell because Michael would say this as well. Assad's getting ready to come back. He's on the journey to returning to the pitching staff, and he had a great year last year.
Yeah.
But the question's going to be, what is he going to be this year? Because coming back early, he's probably going to be on a pitch count of some sort. He's got to ramp things back up. And pitchers, man, they can be weird. They get out there and have a couple rough innings, rough days at the at the ballpark, and all of a sudden their season kind of goes downhill. And so, again, there's part of me, I won't lie, there's part of me that hopes they fall off and it becomes a train wreck that we get to watch. But then there's part of me that goes, they're probably the most complete team in the NL Central.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they would be considered the most complete team in all of MLB.
No. I'm thinking about the Central.
But just the Central, I just don't, because right now, obviously teams can make moves. Don't get me wrong, and that could sure things up quite a bit. But
you're probably right. I was thinking the Reds for some reason, but they're all so young. I don't know that you could put them in that category. The Cubs have at least a bunch of.
They have the veteran presence that's needed. You look at Tucker coming in. I know he's still kind of figuring out the team, but he's doing his job. He's leading the way. We knew he was going to. That's not a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've got other players, obviously, that are there, like Dansby Swanson, that can speak to what's,
Yeah, they're still leading the National League in defensive run saves. And
right. Their defense is good. We saw their offense can be potent at times. And the bigger question, again, and their bullpen's been solid. I wouldn't say it's been amazing, but it's been what they've needed it to be. And starting pitching has done the job to this point.
Yeah.
Again, Steele going down leaves a big gap. Somebody's going to have to step up into that. And so that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. So let's do the Cardinals segment real quick for a bit, and we'll wrap it up. So the last week we had a series we were on the road, finishing the road trip with a series against the Pirates that we dropped. Out of that, though, I think a good indicator was we beat Paul Skeens, which we are now. Paul Skeens is, I think, 1-3 against the Cardinals. We're one of
about right.
2 teams that have beat him. Obviously, the first of his career was last year, and he started in May, end of April or something. He came in a little late. But we put 5 runs on him, which if you think about for the Cardinals coming into the season, we were like, what is this offense going to do? Putting 5 runs on Paul Skeens, who's probably going to win the Cy Young this year, I would imagine.
So far he's looked every bit the part.
That's a big deal for props to the Cardinals for that, and I think he would say that too, like, hey, they beat me, they figured me out. But the one thing coming out of that is the getaway game, the third game of the series, the day game. They had a 13-inning game that kind of just seemed like, at first I was annoyed thinking about it, but at the same time, they had the doubleheader in Boston, the miserable weather in Pittsburgh. It was
super
freezing.
Cold, right?
It was in the 30s, and nobody wanted to be there. Now, obviously, they're athletes. They got to compete, and they got to win the game. But you could kind of tell when you were watching that game that everybody's like, can we just be done? And both teams didn't want to score. They just wanted to move on. So it is what it is. It's annoying, but I don't think that's an indicator of the team. I think it's just the season. But I think a big thing coming out of this is we just beat the Phillies in a series 2-1. And an interesting stat, we haven't beaten Philly in a series since 2017, which 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Right.
Which they've been on the up and up since that, obviously, and we've been on the downtrend, so going in opposite directions. But I don't know. Thoughts about the last week, the last 6 games?
To me, it's what I thought the Cardinals would be. They're going to show flashes of brilliance. They're going to show where they look like a team that could be very competitive in the Central, maybe snag that second wild card spot if everything goes right. But there's just gonna be a lot of inconsistency. Especially from the pitching side. The offense has been a surprise, although we did see the RISP issue, the runners in scoring position issue, kind of rear its head over the last couple series. You talk about the game we lost to Philly at home, the 4-1 game, which surprisingly, I have to say it, Michaelis didn't look horrible. He actually pitched quite well for us. We hit into 5 double plays in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, so it wasn't that people weren't on base or we didn't have our opportunities. They just weren't capitalizing, and that's baseball. Sometimes you're going to run into stretches where you just don't get that clutch hit that you need, or that little looper that just kind of falls in. And we saw that when we played in Boston, the one game. They were interviewing Jordan Walker out in right field, and everything Boston seemed to hit. It was the big 18-run game that they had. It was just finding a spot to get through.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen sometimes, and it's going to inflate your numbers. And then you're going to have games like you had the middle game of this series where you can't get a runner over as much as you try. I think the things that concern me more than anything is, again, we're at a place where the offense is good. They're getting hits. It's kind of the Whitey ball era again. There's no power. There's no, with Herrera being down, he's your home run leader at 4, and Brendan Donovan has 2. And that's it. You got other people with 1. Don't
Walker
get me
now
wrong.
has 2.
Right. But
no one has 3.
Yeah.
Burleson hasn't had a homer. Gorman has 1, but he's been playing part-time.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
so, that just concerns me because you don't have the ability to change the game with a swing right now.
Yeah. So since you said that, I did some research real quick, and I want to throw something out there. This is with runners in scoring position stats for this year. Let me make sure I am right by saying this year. Yeah, this is 25 so far. With runners in scoring position, Chicago is leading all of baseball in average at 302 with RISP, which bears what they're showing what they're doing. St. Louis is number 4 with average and running score position at 280. Second is New York, the Yankees. Third is Atlanta, which is interesting. And 5th is Cincinnati. And then slug with runners in scoring position. New York is leading. Then it's the Dodgers, the Giants, the Cubs, then St. Louis. So it's interesting when you put games in a vacuum, that series where we grounded into double plays, it's like, oh, we are horrible at RISP. But then if you look at the collective nature of the season so far, it's like, oh, shoot,
right,
we're actually pretty good at it.
Right.
And especially when you think about last year when we were like 28th or 29th, we were like 100%. One of the worst at it. So the improvement is crazy to think. But yeah, baseball is all about finding consistency because every team's going to be on a hot stretch and be good at everything for a small amount of time. But that I was in the same mindset as you, and I was like, it's starting to trend down a little bit,
and that's my thing. It's
actually not that bad.
It was inflated early in the season because we were driving in runs.
Yeah.
Last couple series, it started to rear its head. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say there. I'm not saying they've been bad overall. Their offense has been great. I would take this offense if it's going to be this consistent all year. That side doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't continue to be a trend.
Yeah, I think yesterday's game was a stopper of the trend, so to speak, because the series against Pittsburgh, the game against Aaron Nola, game 1 of the series, it was a 2-0, which sometimes you're going to have those games, man.
Sure.
Sometimes you're going to have a game where, hey, the other pitcher is really good. We barely
and you just scratch
I think
across.
About that one, the game we always go to with Chris Carpenter in 11, where it was a 1-0 game for 9 innings, and the pitching has just got to, hey, we can't score against this guy. You got to bear down and get us out of this. We are going to have those games through the rest of the year. But then, falling to them in game 2 and with Miles, and he did okay. He was fine. Yeah. I still have my pretty strong feelings about him, even though he had quote-unquote success in that game. But this game coming out against Wheeler and doing what we did to Wheeler is a big deal. We scored 4 off of him or 5 off of him. I can't remember.
Right.
Off of them.
And you look at the last 5 games. You got to give starting pitching a little bit of credit.
Yeah.
In the last 5 games. One whole run through, the rotation. Sonny Gray got the win in Pittsburgh. Fetty didn't pitch bad in Pittsburgh. We just couldn't hit.
Yeah.
And then Palante comes back against Philly, has the 2-0, pitched great. even Michaelis, like we said, it's a 4-1 loss to Philly, but didn't pitch bad.
Yeah.
And then Liberatore yesterday, I think, despite the rough start for him, and rough start, I mean, because he threw a lot of pitches. I think he was at like 40, 41 pitches through 2 innings.
Say the name again. I'm looking up something while you're
Liberatore?
Liberatore, yeah.
Yesterday, yeah. And so
He bared down though.
yeah, and he just kind of fought through it, and it turned out to be a great performance. Now I want to see, because you're getting ready to go through the run again. So can there be more consistency here? And I think to your point, you said it before we came on air to talk, is that now they're also going to go to the 6-man because of the stretch that they're in.
Right.
And so Mats is going to be inserted into that. So what does that look like?
Right.
Because it is going to shift things up just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the offense keep playing. We're going to have games where they don't hit because it's baseball and you're not feeling it. Offense is contagious, so when somebody clicks, it kind of starts making everybody else click. So I'm excited to watch the team. And we have to really, I think as fans, we got to make sure our expectations are in check, because even though moves were done the opposite, the intent of this season was to see what all of these young position players can do. And they're proving us wrong in the sense of like, oh, this is a terrible team, they're not going to do anything. And then the offense last year and what they didn't do.
Right.
So it's fun to see. Yeah, we should be a perennial contender, and we have that chip on our shoulder. But it's still fun baseball to watch, in my opinion. And seeing individual successes from players is really fun to watch. A couple of moments from the series, obviously Wilson getting his first home run and something clicking with his offense. He's got 3 multi-hit games. I think I wrote that down right.
Yeah.
He transitioned to the torpedo bat. So he listened to our podcast last week, obviously.
That's right.
And was like, hey, they're saying this, I got to do this. No, but for real, I heard a report last night that he tried it in spring and he couldn't stand it. But I mean, he was hitting the cover off the ball in spring. So this year, I think in the report it said because he'd just been scuffling, he needed to try something, and so he ordered some, and they came in, I think, over the last week or maybe over the weekend, or maybe when they got back into town. And a report from Katie Wu from The Athletic said that he threw all of his old bats away, and has only exclusive torpedo bats now.
So you can't go back.
Yeah, he can't go back. And it's finding success for him. I mean, because if you think about the way that they're pitching him, he's not seeing spin, and so they're throwing him so much off speed. So he's got to find a way to get himself in fastball counts. And then that home run yesterday, I watched it back. It pitched him up inside, which is exactly what the torpedo bat would do. I'm really happy for him and excited for him because you can tell his attitude had been kept, but you could tell it was weighing on him.
Yeah.
And he's such a good dude. Like, he deserves every amount of love that the fan base can give him.
100%.
He's just a dude, man. But he had a double 110 off the bat yesterday too. I'm a sucker for obviously exit velo. Your boy Walker hitting a home run.
I told you,
112 off the bat.
Right, it'll come. Leave the man alone. Just let him hit, and the home runs will come with it.
Yeah. So maybe the last thing to bring up is Wynn got put on the IL. That brought, with him going on the IL, that brought Gorman back off the IL, but it made Sagasi come up. So the question I wanted to throw to you, I guess this is a 2-parter. So Wynn had back issues last year, and they managed it by, making his off days really specific to how to manage it, and it worked, I think. But they didn't bring in a Brandon Crawford or like a backup shortstop. So the two-parter question is, what do you think that will look like now for the rest of the season with Wynn coming back off the IL? What are they going to do to the roster? Do you think they're going to do anything to the roster to manage? Hey, Wynn probably can't play 162 like we thought he could. What are we going to do?
Right. He shouldn't. If he's going to be your staple there, you're going to have to give him off days. And I think they're starting to see that. Now, what I would do versus what the Cardinals are going to do is very different.
I think you and I would do the same thing.
I agree. I think they're just going to stand pat. I think when Wynn comes off the IL, Sagaci's going to end up going back down, barring some sort of significant run from Sagaci.
Yeah.
Like he's going to have to be on some massive tear for them to keep him up. I think they're going to send him back down, and I think they're going to run the deal with what you saw yesterday. Donovan will occasionally go to shortstop, and Gorman will play second on days that Wynn needs to have off. And you'll just kind of see a similar lineup to that. And then when Wynn is playing, obviously Donovan will be at second left field like he's been, kind of moved around a bit to give people some days off here and there. And that's probably how you're going to run it for the foreseeable future. I would love, if it were me personally, and I don't know what Ollie's relationship is like with Siani, but he's there. Like, I don't think Siani's bad. I like the idea of him being a defensive replacement, but I would consider either moving him or sending him down, open up a 40-man spot, bring Barrero up, because it solves both issues. It gives you a legitimate defensive shortstop and a defensive outfielder that can be late innings replacement.
Yeah.
It gives you the flexibility that you need on this team.
Yeah. I 100% agree. That's what I was hoping would happen coming out of spring. In the report, Katie Wu said, shout out to her because she does a great job, obviously. She said what's going to happen until Mason Wynn comes back, that against lefty starters, Sagaci's starting at short and Donovan's at second. Against right-handed starters, Donovan's going to be at short and Gorman's going to be at second.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because we went from, it feels like, could be wrong, but it went from like, we don't really want Donovan to be at short. He can, but it's not something we want. That's why Wynn's going to play 162 and being fine. And now he's probably going to be the main starter for a week-ish, because I don't remember what you said the date for Wynn coming back was. But I think it'll
be after Easter, yeah. So it'd be next Tuesday. So, yeah, a little over a week is at least his projected.
Yeah.
Everything goes well. And, I mean, now today you'll probably see Sagaci in the lineup because we're going against Framber Valdez.
Yeah.
So he's a lefty, so you'll probably see Sagaci at shortstop, Donovan at second.
Yeah.
It'll probably look like that. But then you've got Hunter Brown and Blanco are the other two.
Which we're not going to hit Blanco.
So those are, that's just, that's probably what you're going to see in this series.
Yeah.
And at least until Wynn comes back. Again, I think Sagaci's going to be the odd man out, unfortunately. I really wish that wasn't the case, but I just don't think this front office or the coaching staff's going to make any other adjustment.
So, yeah, the problem is...
unless somebody else gets injured.
The roster construction right now is expecting would be the better word, I think, Mason Wynn to play 162, because he also said he wanted to. Like, that's his goal.
And every ball player is going to tell you that.
Is that the game today? No. There's one player who can do that in the entire league out of, 500 players on all 30 teams? So, right now... it's expected that the roster is constructed and expected to Wynn to do that. But say to fix that solution, like you're saying, and you and I are both agreeing on this, you're going to send Siani down to have a backup shortstop in Sagaci right now, because that's what the 40-man looks like. That's forcing and expecting Victor Scott to play 162, which he cannot yet. He's young, hasn't even played a full season in the big leagues. You can't take a player from the minors and then go to 162 in the majors. It's their body can't handle it. Their mind can't handle it. So the only fix to that, I think, like you and I say, is Siani has to go down and they have to bring Barrero up, because Barrero fixes both of those problems at the same time.
100%.
Sure, Newt can play center, but they decided that they didn't want him to do that.
I don't want that, because he's going to end up, that's going to create more issues for you.
He's healthy and doing well right now. Leave him alone. Leave him in his spot. So it'd be interesting to see. That's what I think makes the most sense. If I was a couch general manager and a manager of a team.
Which I am, right?
Which we are, yeah. Right. That's what we do. I agree, but will they do that? I don't know. I kind of think they're going to need to do something. And again, I think it goes back to your point. How much does Ollie really want Siani on the roster enough to keep Wynn healthy?
Right. And I see the value. Like, don't get me wrong. I see the value in Siani. I don't want to degrade him as a defensive player. He's a Gold Glove defensive outfielder. And it's great to have.
Yeah.
It's great to have in the late inning of the games.
Those first 2 series.
Right.
Because
you had the lead.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't have the lead, he's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But it's like, to me, with Barrero, you've got to clear a 40-man spot.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to DFA Siani first. So
I actually don't think you do that. I think the better move would be to do that to Lotus, who's a pitcher who they obviously don't have trust in. Now, the story is really cool because he's from WashU, he's from St. Louis, and he was a part of the organization. But he's not going to provide what they need for a spot.
Right.
So I think Siani he's in AAA and he'll be called up when we need him. But the point still stands. Barrero needs a 40-man spot.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways you could work the 40-man, and so.
And historically, Mo hates touching the 40-man.
Right, but I think the cards are going to have to be moved around.
Yeah.
I think that you just don't have an option, and so you look at a guy like you said, like Lotus or somebody like that, who if you DFA, chances are nobody's going to pick him up.
Yeah,
and he's just going to stay on your minor league roster. Mm-hmm. He's just going to open up that 40-man spot.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. Put Barrero on it, get him called up. And again, if by some chance there are other injuries in the outfield that do pop up, you have Siani that you can bring up as well to then fill that role for the time period.
The secondary thing to it, too, to think about is Siani is there to cover for Jordan Walker in late innings for defensive replacement. But Jordan Walker is a plus fielder right now.
Right now, he's changed his tone.
You can definitely tell. I showed you that stat the other day, how he went from the last 3 seasons. But you can definitely tell he's getting better. Having John Jay helping him has obviously made a difference. So it begs the question, do you need an elite defender for a late game replacement anymore?
I mean, I think it's nice. Like, it's one of those things, it's a luxury to have when you have a game. Because here's the deal. As good as Jordan Walker has been, he's not Michael Siani.
No,
he's not
100%.
at the Gold Glove level yet.
100%.
I mean, I'm 100% pleased with the progress he's made, and he's said it himself. His goal is to win a Gold Glove in right field. Now, whether he obtains that or not is yet to be seen.
I think he'll get one. Kind of like Pujols got one.
Right. I mean, he's an athletic guy. Mm-hmm. He does have deceptive speed. I'm not saying he's the fastest guy, but because of his size and length, he can cover a lot of ground quickly. Yeah. But again, some of the things that the intangibles that he's starting to learn is routes and taking the right first step to get to a ball, which Siani and Scott already have those built in.
Yeah.
And Scott obviously has unparalleled speed to make up for the difference. If he gets a bad jump or takes a little bit of a wrong angle, he's got the speed to recover.
Yeah.
That's where it hasn't hit for Jordan Walker yet. So he's got to rely more on the fundamental side of things. Make sure you get that good first step. Make sure you are running the optimal angle to the ball. And so far he's done that. Like, it hasn't been a glaring weakness like it was before.
Yeah.
And so I think, to your point, I don't think you necessarily have to. But if you have a lead, it's sure nice. But I would say that if you have a lead and Barrero's up and in that spot, you could still do the same thing.
Yeah.
Barrero is still a couple steps ahead defensively than where Jordan Walker is at this place in his career.
Yeah.
And so you still have that same defensive prowess with Barrero. You just also get someone who can come into the infield and play shortstop at a high level as well.
Yeah.
Better, I think, than Sagasi, better than Donovan at shortstop. Neither one of those guys are bad defenders, but there's a range issue that I have with both of them. They're not going to get to some of the balls that Wynn gets to, obviously, and Barrero would be able to get to.
Yeah. I think the Cardinals had to shoot themselves in the foot a little bit this Rule 5 because they had to put Hintz and Roby on the 40-man to
Right.
save them, of which Hintz isn't going to see the majors this year.
Not at
maybe
all.
not even next
But
year.
you can't DFA him at
Yeah,
this point
you can't
because
release
somebody's going to pick him up.
Exactly. So they have these spots taken up of which they're not going to be used for a minute. Koperniak would be the other one. They obviously wanted to save him for a reason, but they're hesitant to bring him up, which I get why. So they shot themselves in the foot, but they kind of had to. So they're going to have to make a dramatic move by getting rid of a reliever of some sorts or a player that.
Yeah, and I mean,
he'd be great, but we need to make a spot.
Right. You've got people that you could cut from the 40-man DFA, right?
Yeah.
And maybe somebody like Colorado or Washington, one of the lower teams might go, hey, we need an extra arm and take him.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy that you're going to cut is not going to be a guy that's going to make significant impact on your roster now.
Totally.
So it's one of those, it is a bit of a risk, but it's a very minor risk in the scheme of things.
Yeah. So, wrapping the episode up for us this week, the Astros are coming in town to finish out this homestand. So, we have 3 games against them, and then we go on the road to face the Mets, then Atlanta. So, we're in the midst of I think it's a 13-day stretch of games. So, let's wrap this episode up in this series and in the Mets series coming up. What's a player that you're watching a moment you're looking for, or a particular player that you're looking to see who we're facing against? What are you looking at coming up?
Yeah, for me, there are 2 as far as with Houston that I'm interested just to see. One, obviously, is Cam Smith. I mean, he's starting to kind of get back to that trend that we saw in Houston in spring training.
He turned the corner a little bit.
Right. He struggled, which I told you he would coming out of the gates. I mean, playing in legitimate MLB games, not spring games, is different.
Yeah.
You got to make adjustments. He started to make those adjustments, so I want to see him. I think the other thing I want to see is Altuve in left, especially at Busch. I mean,
I didn't even think about that.
Right. Like I just want to see what happens out there.
So he's been going back to second. Is he
He's
bouncing?
back and forth.
He's back
right.
and forth?
He's
Okay.
back and forth because like I think yesterday afternoon's game he was back out and left.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just a product of who they're playing. Again, they're a very right-handed heavy lineup, with the exception of a couple players.
So we will have Gray, Fetty, and Palante against them. It'll be interesting to see the Palante game because he's a reverse splits guy.
Right.
And if he has a lineup full of right-handers, what's that going to be?
Right. And so that'll be interesting. I think from our side of things, I want to see if Jordan Walker can continue his run against, top 3 pitching, at least for Houston. See if he can stay hot. And then Willie, too. I think he's turned the corner. But I want to see him really kind of just take some big steps. I think the fun surprise, obviously, has been our catching as far as Pajes and Pozo. I mean, who would have thought, like, you bring a guy up that's probably not even deemed for the major leagues this year because of an injury, and he's having this type of success. Only the Cardinals, I guess, could find a way to do that, right?
Yeah, with the best catching in baseball, offensive catching in baseball.
Right,
It's wild.
right. Kind of crazy. For me, when you go to the Mets series, obviously the big thing that I'm looking at is what Steven Matz do we get? Because he's going to start in that series.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the one that I want to see. That's those 3 starters. So we'll have 2 lefties, and then Miles will be in the middle of those.
Yeah.
So it'll be Matz, Miles, and then slated Liberatore for the Mets series. So
it'll be interesting. Speaking of the 6-man, it'll be interesting how that works out because I did hear Ollie talk about how it's not going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be some guys are going to stay on the 5 day. Some guys are going to go on the 6. So I don't know when Matz is actually starting. Would they say the 20th or the 19th or something? I forget.
They're saying the 17th
So
is
the
what the
17th?
projection is. Now, it could shift.
Right, for sure.
But
Which that puts him at
game 1 of the Mets series.
the number 4.
Right. It
Because
puts him right behind Palante.
Tonight.
Right.
Yeah. So, he would be number 4. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And again, it'll be intriguing because the matchups we have there in New York are going to be Pederson, Senga, and Holmes. Senga's the one that I want to see. I want to see how
We hit him really well, though.
Yeah, but he's got that forkball.
Yeah.
I want to see how some of our young hitters pick up on that. I think that'll be
outing last time too.
That'll be a good indication of the Brant Brown effect. What type of game plan they have going up against someone like that will be really interesting to watch as well. And then obviously you get to Atlanta. That's slated for Strider to come back right in the middle of that series.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
You said it. We tend to hit him well. He'll be on a pitch count, obviously coming back. But I want to see where Atlanta is by that point if they've kind of turned the corner. Because like I said, they started, I think, 0-7, 0-8.
0-8.
And now they're 4-11.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're
they beat Philly.
Right. They're 4-3 in their last.
Yeah, and what's his name? Ozuna from the Braves is on a tear as well.
He's coming back
Not
around.
everybody. Most of them aren't hitting right now. He is, obviously. But it's still a threatening.
Murphy's back for him now. Obviously, Riley's been healthy all season, which is a big thing. So outside of Acuna, their offense is kind of re-intact to what it was in 2019 as far as the lineup construction.
Yeah.
Now, they're not hitting that way.
Right.
But
De La Cruz is underrated in that. Kind of like the Burger.
Right. The big outlier for Atlanta, obviously, is Profar getting suspended. That was a big hit to them because he was performing, too. He was playing well. But
because he was trying to have a baby, right?
Apparently.
Like a fertility drug.
But I think De La Cruz is a good replacement in that as well. I mean,
he hits us really well.
Right,
too.
right. So we've seen him when he played for Miami quite a bit take us and behind the woodshed, maybe is the best way to say that.
Right, yeah. For me, a few things. So I'm really paying attention to Nolan Gorman. He's back on the IL, off the IL, and with Wynn being on the IL, he's definitely going to get more playing time. I reiterate it for myself. I don't get the Alec Burleson experience, and I was done with it before the season started. Obviously, the team is not, and is still doing it, but I'm paying attention to Gorman because he gets such a limited opportunity. He's got opportunity for the next week or so-ish. So I'm excited to see what he could do. He's changed a lot.
Right.
And he doesn't have very many. He's not striking out much at all. Now, limited plate appearances.
Right.
He's only got one strikeout.
I'd love to see him in today's game
12 plate appearances.
Right, to go lefty-lefty. I know it's not going to happen, but I would love to see him in the lineup today just to see a lefty-lefty matchup for Nolan.
Yeah, probably because they got Baker. He's probably not going to DH.
Right.
He'll probably be the first bench replacement.
Yeah. As soon as they bring in a righty, he's going to come in. I don't doubt that.
So I'm interested to see that. I'm really intrigued by the 6-man. Matz is on a pitch count limit. So on his start, he's still going to only get like 70 pitches, which for him is probably 3 innings.
Maybe.
It
just depends on how the day goes.
4.
Right.
And so what is that going to do to the bullpen on this stretch? And then I'm paying attention to Victor Scott, which I know, homer take. He's a little bit in a slump right now.
Although he's been bunting beautifully.
He has. He got lucky in that bunt yesterday, though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm fascinated by that player. I love the way he plays the game. He's struggling at the plate a little bit. Still above PCA.
Yeah, but that would be. I mean, that was to be expected too.
Yeah.
We knew he was going to have his up and downs through the course of the season.
Man almost made an incredible catch the other day too. I just think I'm wondering if it's, okay, he's being adjusted and he's got adjusted, or he's tired. He's never done this much, played this many innings this quickly, so you never know what that does to a young player. So I'm paying attention to him because, man, he's definitely got the swagger for what the team needs, is that personality. And then overall, I am interested in this Astros series because we notoriously don't play well against them because our pitching is just historically atrocious in the last 5+ years against them. We've hit them pretty well, but we don't pitch against them really well. So, like you said, our rotation just came off a great stretch in its last 1 through 5. Can we hold it, or is Altuve and Jordan going to destroy it? And then, what is our hitting plan against these guys? We didn't hit Blanco very well. We actually hit Valdez pretty well, I think. especially in spring. But I mean, spring. Yeah. So that's what I'm really, really paying attention to.
Yeah, and we haven't had much success against lefties so far this year.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good week stretch of games. It's 3 really good teams. You know, their standings may not indicate it, but it's still really well constructed teams. And the Mets are on the most absolute heater right now. So we're going into Queens to play a really, really hot team. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see. Thanks for listening to this episode of Who's On First. You know, catch us on social media at WOFBB Podcast. Comment on the videos or on Twitter. Let us know your takes and things that we said. Start a conversation, and we'll see you guys next week.